Welcome back to another episode of Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We are back with our Week 14 review of the NFL action. You'll notice it's just myself and Joe this week on the review. Our dependable Iron Man, Byron, sadly has been struck down by the man flu. And he never misses an episode until now. His streak is broken, but yeah, sadly Byron can't make it. Hopefully he feels better soon and he'll make it for our preview episode next week. Joe, how you doing? Week 14. We've got 4 weeks left of the NFL.
Yeah, doing good. Obviously, the last weekend of bye, so it's all go systems the next few weeks. Yeah, it feels weird that I'm still like, oh, there's plenty of games to catch up, but it's getting to that point where it's I'm like, oh yeah, 4 games left. Certain teams have to start winning and putting some win streaks together. But yeah, all good. Christmas decks are up. Christmas shopping's nearly done, so it's fun football season in December.
I wish I was as organised as you. I've still got plenty to do. I'm too distracted by the football. That's the problem. A little break now, though, I think. So Saturdays are free now. College football's finished. So just waiting for the playoffs to start. So I've got a couple of free Saturdays to get some Christmas shopping done at least. Speaking of days, let's start with, we're going to do our deep dive into 4 of the key games from this week. We're going to start on Thursday Night Football. It's a rarity. We do talk about the Thursday Night Football game on the review, but it was a cracker, so why not? It was the Bears. No, it wasn't. It was the Packers and the Lions on Thursday Night Football in Detroit. The Lions win 34-31 with a walk-off field goal. And Dan Campbell's been getting a big pat on his back all week for making that decision to go for it on 4th down to take the time off the clock. Joe, what did you think of Dan Campbell's decision to, I mean, it was about 2 inches, wasn't it? But yeah, to run the play on 4th down to make sure the Packers never got the ball back.
Yeah, it was certainly ballsy. I think what you have to appreciate is very consistent. I think they went for 5 4th downs and hit 4, missed out on 1, which was on the 30. They were on 30-yard line, which I thought was slightly a bit of a mistake going through. But you have to, he stands for what he stands for, and it was big boy's decision. And I think for me, it was more not trusting the defense rather than, well, I think it was both actually, because is the main strength of this Lions team is their offensive line and their running game. So you're relying on that. Obviously, when Goff gets stood on and goes down to his knee, I'm guessing, he was sweating then. I thought, oh, Jesus, it's cost the Lions a game. But, Goff does well to hand it over to Montgomery and basically seals the victory. But yeah, on the flip side, the defense wasn't really stopping this Packers team. I think if they'd kicked it, I think it gave John Love enough time, especially with them wide receivers, to go back down. So I think it was just to win the game. I think it was huge for the division's sake, for the first to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. So yeah, all fair play to him. I think it's always curious them ones, because obviously it mentioned I think the go for it or not, the AI or whatever, but was saying you should have gone for the field goal and not gone for it. So it goes against that, and you just worry sometimes at these kind of situations where it'll cost the Lions. It's that weird one. You get like you gambling like they did last year in the playoffs, obviously against the 49ers, and I think against the Packers last year as well. He went for 4th down, didn't get it, and the Packers went to win it. So when it works, fair play to him. But I think he just needs, sometimes I think it's great, but yeah, I think he's probably the only head coach who would have done it, though. I think that's the thing.
Yeah, I think for me, like if that's a Cowboys game and McCarthy doesn't go for that 4th down, I would be furious. Like the worst kind of, I know you potentially give it up, but you level. I know there's 40 seconds left. You could potentially, and the reward outweighs the risk, and of just being able to get. Like I say, I wouldn't even think it was half a yard. It very much was inches. Obviously, the Lions are much more capable of getting that than the Cowboys would, for my case, for example. But yeah, I don't know. I thought he was, a little bit ballsy, but I think I think I've said it a few times. We get a bit carried away about just how crazy we're going about the Lions. They are fantastic. Some of the numbers they're putting up are insane. Potentially, I think talking about top 10 offensive of all time. But I think it was a good, solid decision. Like, I don't think it was anything more than that. I think the bit that probably has gone amiss, and I don't know if you've seen this, but so the Lions and the Packers both have played both games now. Of the 6 touchdowns the Lions scored against the Packers across the 2 games, 4 of them came on 4th down.
Wow.
Across the 2 games, and that's a bit. Well, that's probably the difference there between these teams making those decisions. I think even the first game, it was like I think they scored a couple of touchdowns on less, 4 and 5 and 4 and 4 or something like that. And I think that's the stuff where you go, yeah, that's the consistency, and that's where you're getting the rewards out of it. And giving up one, which you're gonna do, it's not gonna work all the time, and we saw that in the game. But yeah, like I said, that's his mark, and he's gonna go for it.
I am curious if like Hutchinson was in there and they had all their defensive pieces, if they were all fit and that defense was playing better, what his decision would have been then. Because I think that came into it massively, the fact that this Lions defense has a huge injury problem. They give up quite a lot of yards and plenty of points to this Packers team. So, personally, I wouldn't have been too bothered if my head coach had gone for the field goal. I think that was the smart play if you've got the defense and not got that kind of offense. I think it's that kind of thing where what's your strength? It's getting that yard. What's your weakness right now? It's stopping Jordan Love. It's the defense. So I think it made sense that way. I just wonder if they had all their defensive personnel, if it would have gone for the field goal instead of thought, I trust my defense to stop Jordan Love with, I think they had like 40 odd seconds with no timeouts.
Yeah.
To not go down the field and get a field goal to tie it up. But they got it, and you can't say anything bad. But yeah, it was a good game. I think it was a great game. Obviously, I think the Packers are going to be so unlucky that they're probably going to get the 6th seed right now.
I think so, yeah. So you'd be, Vikings are like, look, it's not over yet as well. Like, I think this game could have blown it up, couldn't it? If the Packers would have snuck this game, that would have blown up. It's a 3-way race between the Packers, Lions, and Vikings, with the Vikings and Lions still to play in Week 18. It's not done yet. Like, say, the Vikings are just still there. They're right on the shoulder of the Lions, and the Vikings can take this to Week 18. But yeah, you're right. You're likely going to have Vikings or Lions as the 5 seed.
6th seed.
And the 6th seed being the Packers.
Yeah, and obviously, so that's massive now. Whoever comes gets that 1st seed. So if you're thinking, let's say the Lions and the Eagles are battling it out, and also the Vikings as well. But if the Eagles come 2nd seed and you've got the Packers coming to your stadium, that's probably worst case scenario when you look at everyone else. It's I think it's huge to get this 1st seed now, just because I was impressed with the Packers. Obviously, the defense is better than the last few years. Still not amazing. They did manage to pressure Goff quite a lot. And like you said, it's just against anyone else who wouldn't go for fourth downs, they may have kept this team down to, low 20s, and it would have been a great performance from them. But it's just that final, can you stop them on 4th down? It's huge.
Yeah. Lions 12-1, Packers 9-4. I think we had a couple of games this week, contenders for games of the season. I think we've got another one next week. Bills Lions next week feels like it's going to be an absolutely fantastic game. And yeah, I think it's been an entertaining one. And like I say, the Vikings are right there. If the Lions do slip up, the Vikings are there and could potentially take it down to week 18 and pinch this division, but should be a good one. And yeah, the Packers with where they're out there at the minute, it feels like, I say, they're just now with that loss, they're just going to be they're going to be in the playoffs again. They've got a bit of business still to take care of to make sure they're on Sunday Night Football next week against the Seattle Seahawks.
And a big shout out to Tim Patrick, obviously. 2 touchdowns. I think his first touchdown in 1,082 days since he got his touchdown. Managed to get 2, which I think is big.
Just with all buses.
Exactly. Just with all the weapons they've got, to get another wide receiver in there to help out, because they're a weird team in terms of who goes off. I obviously had the Jameson Williams bet, which he hit everything except the touchdown. And he had another good game. And on the flip side, I've just decided I'm not going to draft a Packers wide receiver in fantasy ever again. So whenever I put Reed on my bench, he gets crazy amount of points. And I thought, I'll put him in this game because there's going to be points. 1 target, 0 catches, 0 yards, 0 points. And it's just there's too many of them. There's too many in Green Bay.
Yeah, Christian Watson, wasn't it? That the big game for the Packers. We did good from a bet perspective. Obviously, with the Thursday night football, our bet card was out, so I hit the over 51.5. Byron was on the Packers plus 3.5. Andy had cashed Josh Jacobs 2+ touchdowns. Josh Jacobs got 3 touchdowns on the ground, plus 390. And Joe, yeah, you came close with your Jameson Williams parlay, I guess. Yeah, receptions, yards, and just didn't get the touchdown. And you also hit your Zadarius Smith and Rashawn Gary both get a sack at 5-1.
Yeah, it was like in the first quarter as well, I think. So, yeah, that was a nice little play. Yeah, plus 500. I just think they're the main two people, and Gary's certainly been coming on the last few weeks. I don't think he's had a great start to the season, but I think it's massive for this Packers team to get them kind of players firing again. And yeah, happy days at plus 500. Not going to quibble at that.
What a way to start. It was we had a good start to the week, a good end, and just a rough middle patch as bets this week. But good start and good end, I think. And moving on to the next game, we'll just have a quick chat about, and probably one that we didn't think we'd be talking about on the review, but it went to overtime, so I guess we kind of should talk about it. It was the Miami Dolphins eventually winning against the Jets, 32-26. That's officially the New York Jets out of playoff contention. That's the 14th consecutive season the Jets are not going to make the playoffs. They're now 3-10. It's the longest drought. I'm right in saying that. It's the longest drought in the 4 professional sports since some of the other long droughts were ended. And yeah, the New York Jets just. I thought for the majority of this game, they played really well. This is probably Aaron Rodgers' best performance for the Jets. It's the first time he reached over 300 passing yards in 30+ games.
Yeah, it must be sick to be a Jets fan. I think this year might be the biggest disappointment. I think last year, obviously, it was massive disappointment with the injury going straight down. But this year, there was high expectations, and they've just not delivered at all. They played well in this game. They should have won. Realistically, is how like I said, how Rodgers played. But yeah, they just feel like it. I think Devontae Adams said it when he first got. They've just got a loser mentality, and it just feels that way. That even when they play well, when it comes close, they just can't win it. I think there's some like a crazy stat. I can't know exactly, but I think it was like they've had 5 or 6 games where they've had the ball to win it, and they're like 0-6.
Just not very good.
No, so when it's there and that's what you brought Rodgers in for, was to win them, because that's what he was famous for. That's why I always like Rodgers. Obviously, the last few years he's gone a bit weird and off the field matters, but like on the field I used to love him just because he was like so confident, and he just like it was one of them quarterbacks when he had the ball going down, down a couple of points. You certainly know this as a Cowboys fan. You just expected him to get it. There's not many quarterbacks who is like that. Obviously, like Mahomes now. But there's not that many, and Rodgers was always that guy. And obviously going 0-4 this year just says a lot about this team. Obviously, huge games for like Wilson and Adams, both over 100 yards as well. So you would expect, putting all that up together, that they should have won this game. But I think it was it was near the end where they had the ball just before they kicked the field goal to go up by 3. I think they're like tight, like they were trying to waste some time, but Rodgers gets sacked, they take a timeout. Then I think it was Devontae Adams, and he goes out of bounds instead of staying in bounds. And I think it's just little things like that. Obviously, when they kick it to the Dolphins, I think they get a big return to midfield, and it's just like it's all phases where it's just like you just want the season to end now. I think it needs a whole. Well, they've already got rid of the head coach and GM. I'll be surprised if they don't get rid of the QB as well. So it's just a hard reset for this Jets team. And yeah, but on the flip side, Dolphins are a weird team. I think I've given up on them in terms of doing anything. I don't know if they've got it. It just feels like I don't want them in the playoffs because it'll be a terrible game. I'd rather have the AFC West teams, and they're still 2 behind the Broncos and Chargers. And I don't think they're going to catch up because they played at home against not a good Jets team, and they didn't really impress that much.
Yeah, I mean, it just felt it took them such a long time to get going, and even behind, like, Tyreek had a big game. Tyreek Hill is one of the first big games he kind of had all year. And then with Jonnu, they just went back to what's been working for them, which was Jonnu Smith. He didn't have a reception in the entirety of regulation, and then in overtime, all of a sudden, it was 3. it was 3 for 44 and ended up scoring the game with the walk-off touchdown, which was helpful for a push as well. Thanks for that, Miami. Yeah, helpful for that.
Yeah, I think what's the worrying part is, watching the Shanahan offense for the last few years and how it all usually works, like with the McVay one, is they have to get the running game going in order to do what they want to do. And today they carried it 19 times for 44 yards. And you expect this Miami team to be, with how many running backs they've got plenty of them to actually do better against a Jets team who haven't been great against the run the last few weeks. So that's just a worrying point. And just, you're looking at the schedule. They need to, they've got the Texans and the 49ers the next 2 weeks. They finish with the Browns and Jets, which are not going to be easy wins, but they got to win all 4 and hope the Broncos and Chargers drop a couple. But yeah, I just don't see it. I just don't see it for this team. They're just being a disappointing team.
Yeah, they'd kind of really need ideally to be playing one of those, one of those teams. Obviously, they dropped that game to the Colts in week 7, which I think is obviously massive. You have that, and you've got the Broncos, which you feel like that's one you probably want back, and there's probably a couple of others there as well. They lost to the Titans, didn't they? And just a couple there that you could have back. But yeah, ideally you'd want to be playing the Broncos and all the Chargers to try and get those game backs. And sadly, they just don't have it. And yeah, I think it's going to be struggle. I think they're going to be team number 8 probably on the outside looking in. Game of the week, game of the season. I think this might be the one I've enjoyed the most. I think Bills Rams was in the late slate, and as you can see if you're watching on YouTube, we've got a cut of the Puka Nakua catch if Joe moves his head from the virtual background. Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say he was the star of the show because of how well Josh Allen played, but obviously Puka Nakua had an unbelievable game for the Rams. 12 receptions, 160 yards and a touchdown, as well as a through the air, as well as a rushing touchdown. Yeah, phenomenal game. And the Rams needed this one, you think, just to obviously kind of the way that the Seahawks and Cardinals were playing, and with the Seahawks winning. And then if the Niners have got another win, you kind of felt that if they'd have gone here to 6 and 7, they were probably done. Just the way to be 2 behind the Seahawks with 4 left. Whereas all of a sudden they are well alive in that NFC West.
Yeah, 100%. They've still got to play the Seahawks, and the Seahawks have got 2 tough games coming up. So yeah, it was massive. They've got the 49ers on Thursday, which I think is another massive game. I think all these NFC teams are all must wins now because I can see the Seahawks dropping 1 or 2, and the Rams are right there. There's still a team where, yeah, it's weird. There's just a weird team, and I've said this all week. Like Stafford can have like unbelievable games like he did today, but then he could have absolute like crap games basically, like against the Saints. It's just such an up and down team. It feels like, Stafford's just like, he's just having a weird year. But it was massive against his Bills. I think that probably seals the AFC that side. But yeah, the Rams needed it. It was huge. I think it was a big game for Kyren Williams. I think, like I said, getting him going, he went for 29 carries for 87 yards, but he was still start moving that ball to do the play action. Then, yeah, when you've got the 2 wide receivers to do, and Puka, top 5 wide receiver is showing us why. And yeah, he's when he's back and on the field, he's a huge game changer. I don't know how much to go on. Sorry.
It almost feels like every other week with Puka Nakua, there's just one of those like you've got to be kidding me moments that he has hauling in a catch he's got no right to. That one on the sideline was ridiculous. It really, really was. And it's just he makes key grabs to keep drives going. He's the one. I think he's the one when you look at that, which is crazy to say. Kind of Cooper Kupp made a great touchdown catch at the end zone as well, but like he really is the one. And yeah, he's just the key to this offense. I think running it helps. You mentioned kind of this struggled at times, the Rams running the ball this year, which is weird to say for Sean McVay team, but they really, they committed to it and kept it going, even if it was in small chunks, and that just opened up the passing game. But yeah, I was so impressed with how the Rams played and how they just kept responding. Mm-hmm. So every time the Bills punched back, they went again. And the Bills, like I say, the Bills didn't play badly at all. So there was no real, defense was a struggle, but it was such a clean game. There were no sacks, no turnovers in the game, and just a phenomenally efficient outing. But yeah, I was really impressed with the Rams just because I just kind of felt it were going to turn, that the Bills were going to get a stop and be able to get them back, and they just really couldn't. The Rams just kept answering. So yeah, outstanding stuff from them. And then on the other side, Josh Allen was unreal in a losing effort, I know, but I think that this individual performance has cemented the MVP for me. I think it was phenomenal.
Yeah, definitely. I think 6 touchdowns, free throwing, free running. I think there was like showing some stats. This is like a guy from the 1950s, 40s, last person to do it. It was unbelievable game. I think again, I feel like we've had a lot of these this year. I think it's a team who scored 6 touchdowns and no turnovers have gone like 260 and 0, and obviously now it's 260 and 1. Yeah, it's hard to read with this Bills team in terms of obviously the offense was incredible. Getting Cooper up and running, who got 95 yards, Shakir doing what he does with over 100. I think, this offense is great. The defense, is it just an off game? Is it a defense? Well, I've seen a few people say they're a defense who are not great when you've got a true number one, like superstar wide receiver, like Puka, who can go off. So that's not great going into the playoffs. But when you look at the AFC side, there's not many teams who are currently in the playoff positions, I don't think, who has a true number one superstar.
Yeah. Nobody's going to kind of pick them apart. Yeah. Well, not teams that are going to play. Yeah, teams are not going to play. Yeah.
So that probably helps. So obviously they have to travel across country after some after the Sunday night game. So I don't really know what to take away from the Bills, but yeah, great for the Rams. I think that block punt was massive. I think I said in the preview, the Rams don't normally start well. They're normally in the first quarter or half. It doesn't go well for them. But it was reversed this time where they actually started off really well. Because I was thinking if the Bills get up by 10, they're never going to let this lead go. But it was reversed where the Rams managed to, with that block punt, get up by 10 and never really, surrender. Like, they managed to keep it at 10 for most of the game until the end, but then it was more or less done. I know there's been a lot of talk about the Sean McDermott, trying the QB sneak where you had to take the first time out, but I don't think it was.
I don't think they had to take the time out though. I think you'd have lost a lot of time on the clock, but you could have got that. You could have got another play snapped before with 35 seconds. I'd rather have 35 seconds in the 3 timeouts and throw to the end zone than the minute 5, 2 timeouts and have to try an onside kick. I don't mind the call of the sneak because Josh Allen, obviously, the way it's Josh Allen. If there's another quarterback, if it's not Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts, I probably wouldn't like that call, but I'm fine with it. But he just shouldn't. They should have just been ready to go, right. If we don't get in, we've just got to go, and that's hard because you got a lot of big guys and got to try and get them out of the pile. But like if you're making that call, I think you've just got to go, right. This is the second play we've got, and bang, get it in and get it ready. So I think as long as you snap that ball with more than 30 seconds to go, it's fine. You've got the 3 timeouts.
Yeah, I agree. I've just seen some people like overhype it. Like if they did do what you've just said, then you'd kick it and you have to try and stop them go 3 and out. Whether did they go 3 and out even once? So, or once they did it once. So saying, oh well, we could have just stopped them on 3 plays and then go back up the field and get that free. I think it's with that little time left. I think it's because when the Rams needed that 4th down, obviously there was a huge one to Atwell where it was 4th and 5 to get that touchdown at the end. That was massive. If they stop them there, then we could be talking about the Bills have won an amazing game. So they had the chances to win it, but they just didn't quite pull it off. And my opinions of the Bills haven't really changed. I think it was just one of them weird funky games in LA. So like you said, next week's massive. I think if they lose again next week, I know they're playing the Lions, but then that's 2 in a row. Can they beat the big teams? That's going to start creeping in.
I mean, they've got some good. I mean, so they would have lost to the Rams. They lost to the Rams. They've lost to the Ravens. The Ravens beat them pretty bad early in the season, didn't they?
Texans as well.
And they lost to the Texans relatively early doors as well, didn't they?
So that could be like 4 playoff teams if the Rams go off. Yeah. I'm not saying it's like suddenly the Bills can't win it all.
Yeah. I don't know.
But like
I wouldn't though. I wouldn't mind if this was the game we got in New Orleans on the second Sunday of February, I wouldn't be disappointed if we got Rams Bills in
And
the Super
it'll be
Bowl.
like 10-3, just like.
But I think that would be a good. Obviously, wouldn't. I doubt it'd go to this extent, but I think that would be a good matchup if we got that in February in New Orleans. There's a lot, obviously, that has to happen to
Yeah,
it.
and I think what helps the Bills, obviously, they've got the Lions next week, but then they've got Patriots, Jets, Patriots, rest your players. Yeah. If the one seed's already gone, then you can just rest Allen last week, get your bye basically that week, and going strong there. So
go from there.
Great game.
Yeah. Bills at Lions next week, and we've already mentioned we'll touch on Rams Niners for Thursday night football. Let's go to Sunday night football, our fourth game. Kansas Chiefs sew up the AFC West. Didn't make it easy. They don't really do that anymore. They don't make things easy, and did it on a doink. I think only the 2024 Chiefs could do that. A chip shot field goal off the inside of the post as time expires. Just all of it at once. And the Chiefs looked comfortable in this game for a bit, in the first half, and then all of a sudden the Chargers turned it on, started moving the ball, which was a bit of a struggle, even without Lad McConkey. And it was a sort of an effort between Quentin Johnston, Palmer. They were just kind of all
Stone Smart. Give a shout out.
Yeah. All just kind of dipping in and helping out. And then they managed to, all of a sudden, before the end of the third quarter, after looking kind of like the Chiefs were going to be real comfortable, the Chargers were leading heading into the fourth quarter.
Yeah, I felt like, because we'll go to the ATS. I've picked the Chiefs the last few weeks, and I thought it's finally the week they're actually going to cover the ATS at halftime. I thought 13-0 up, the Chargers not doing it much. Will Disley went out with an injury, which was probably their number one wide receiver coming to this week, or pass catcher. But yeah, they just stopped playing, and I think it's starting to get a point that offensive line is a worry for the Chiefs. Mahomes was getting hit way too many times. I know they only got 3 sacks, the Chargers. But it felt like they hit him a lot more times than that. And yeah, it just, Mahomes does what Mahomes does. I think right at the end, there was a free rusher to Mahomes where he managed to just dodge him and managed to get the first down. And I think, that's what Mahomes does. And, this Chargers team, I think it's been a great story. Harbaugh's done a fantastic coaching job. Obviously, Herbert, like, he got hurt at one point. They just haven't got the weapons, and I think coming into the year we knew that. Obviously, I had Lad McConkey going out last week, and not having the Dobbins in the game as well. It just hurts them. It was like a struggle for this Chargers team to get going. They managed to pick up a few, like in the second half. Vidal looked a lot better, started to move that ball, and it's certainly that offensive style where they do need, bully ball kind of running, but they still only went for 100 yards on the ground. So I think they'll make the playoffs, and I think it's a great first year. But yeah, they just need a lot more weapons, and and I think this will be. I think next year it's super exciting if this defense can hold. They've played outstanding when you look at who they've got in that team and how we came this year. But yeah, the Chiefs just do the Chiefs things, and I think they're going to do it for the rest of the year. Where it comes to the last kick, they're either going to block it, score a field goal off a post, or something crazy like that, and we'll see them in New Orleans and three-peating.
Yeah, I mean, it was crazy. It was a weird game in terms of, like, there were only 6 possessions in the second half. It was crazy. So the game finished with with 5 minutes left to go in the third quarter. So the Chiefs started a 12-play drive that ended up in a field goal. The Chargers had a 14-play drive that ended in a field goal, and then the Chiefs had 14 plays, 5-minute drive or 4.5-minute drive to kick the game winner. It was very odd, just odd second half. But yeah, kind of the Chiefs take that ball with, I think, by the way, Cameron Dicker, crazy to give them the ball not landing in not kicking the ball far enough to hit the landing zone and let them start the 40. When they
especially when there's 5 minutes,
win the game.
Yeah, especially when there's 5 minutes left. I know they were trying to he was trying to
hammer that ball.
Yeah, exactly. It was crazy.
Yeah, it was a bizarre one, but yeah, the Chiefs just ran out the clock, and it wasn't. Look, that's what they do again. That situation not going to give you the ball back. You know, for 4.5 minutes to just drain down on the clock, and they did, and converted key moments. The Worthy pass for 14 yards to get the first one, and then they just kept converting 3rd and 1. 3rd and 7, and they just kept making the plays that they needed to get into that position to just about keep the field goal and walk off. 9 consecutive NFC West, AFC. I keep my AFC and NFC mixed up. AFC West titles for the Chiefs. 12 and 1. Yeah, kind of with the Bills dropping a game. The Bills are 2 game, I suppose, a game and a half back. But yeah, it looks done, doesn't it? It looks like it's going to be the Chiefs. I mean, the only way is if the Steelers can go beat them on Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving. Jesus, what's wrong with me today? On Christmas Day, and if the Steelers do that and win out, they're gonna hope they need to drop a game elsewhere as well. But
I think it's how the Chiefs play. Like, you look at all the 4 teams they're playing, they could lose any of them, but probably win all 4 of them. You know, even like the Browns, they have like weird games where, you know, if it comes down to it, you know, Texans, Steelers, Broncos. You know, the Broncos should have beaten them with a kick, got blocked. You know, Texans with Nia Collins back, they could drop one. Like, realistically, they could lose all 4 games just because how all the games have gone, but they'll probably win all 4 with like the last kick and just like sneak through. But, you know, I think like I mentioned, I think there was 13 QB hits. I don't like Mahomes is like, when you see quarterbacks getting absolutely like crunched, you always like, you think, oh, an injury's coming. Like Herbert went off. Purdy went off today. There was a few of us, but like Mahomes just seems to like absorb them really well. It's really strange that he never felt hurt by them hits. But I think sooner or later that offensive line is a struggle. Obviously, and the left tackle, who was a backup, went out as well this game, and so we'll see where they go, because it's not too exciting for both offenses. It feels like a bit of a struggle.
Yeah, was it DJ Humphries, wasn't it, left in the 4th quarter? He just recently been brought in, but they keep rolling on, and they're just gonna continue to make these miserable games for people, aren't they? And I'm just gonna keep hammering Chiefs games as unders. Under 43 hit on this one. I had the Chargers to cover as well on this one, +4. Some of our bets, we were 3 for 6. Byron hit Kamani Vidal touchdown at +500 as well. So that's 2 +500 bets you cashed between you this week as well. And you would have shot on the Mahomes over 20 rushing yards.
Apparently I've just checked now. It says 17, so they must have like do that thing where they change it. But when it happened, it said 19. But they must have shot on the other time. But it did a few runs, but not quite the.
Rushed 4 times as well. Like like you'd have thought you'd probably got one, because he always just does tend to break one, doesn't it? But unlucky,
you know why I think it was? It was 19, but he took 2 kneel downs.
Oh, to settle the field goal. Of course. That'll be right. Yeah, I hate that. But yes, you know what? If you sat at 21 rush yards, then
I would have been pissed.
Oh my god. Oh dear. So that was the 4th game that we were looking at in depth. Congrats to the Chiefs on another AFC West title. We're going to get into the rest of the games through our 4-fold challenge. Sadly, no winner this week. We've still got games to go, but all of us dropped at least a game over the course of the weekend, or the course of Sunday. We've still got some Monday nighters to go. Joe, you're in at 2 and 2. Byron was 1 and 3 on the week. He's just never going to get it.
So I didn't turn up.
Is that why I didn't turn up this week?
He did turn up. He was so disappointed with his week.
Never going to get it. He's starting to really drop behind you now as well. I'm 2 and 1 with Monday Night Football to go, so could get to 3 and 1. And I guessed 1 and 2. Also got Monday Night Football to go, which is the same pick. So we'll start with Byron. Byron, to the one he got in for his 1 and 3 was the Buccaneers at 6.5 point favorites. They overcame the Raiders 28-13. 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, 2 touchdowns in the fourth quarter, and then a whole lot of nothing in between. I was on the over on this one as just one of my bets, and I was furious. Well, this was 24 points at halftime, and the Raiders were alive in it. I was furious that it just didn't kick on in the second half. But anyway, Bucks.
I think Byron must have been sweating. I thought he was going to go 0-4 with how this game was going. If it looked like the Raiders had a real chance to win this, obviously looks like AOC is done for the year. It looks like it was leg injury. He was on he had a cast on. getting carted away. But they had the chances. Mayfield having a bit of a Mayfield kind of game where he looks good in spells and then he throws 2 interceptions. I think he fumbles a ball as well. He's just making silly mistakes, but they keep winning these bad teams. I think they've had a few. They've had an easy schedule the last few weeks, and they've managed to win them all, which they needed to do. They keep sneaking these wins, but big game coming up against the Chargers, and Mayfield can't play like that, or they're going to get punished. They did what they had to do. They didn't. I was hoping they would blow away this Raiders team to feel more confident in them, but yeah, they're a weird team, and yeah, all the hype with Bucky Irvin, and he hardly does anything. It was on them.
Yeah. Boom to bust one week, but it was Rashad White obviously took the mantle up for the running game, and had a touchdown on the ground, a touchdown through the air. Tampa control their own destiny now. We've talked about the Falcons have just fallen off a cliff, and we'll get to that game later. But it's in the Buccaneers' own hands now, 7-6. When a few weeks ago we were kind of saying maybe it was going to be a struggle because the Falcons were going well, fallen off the edge of a cliff, and the Buccaneers have taken advantage. So that's 3 wins in a row. They've got the Chargers. They come to Dallas on Sunday Night Football just before Christmas. Panthers, Saints to win. I think, especially with the way the Falcons are, I think it might just need 2. I think we might be a 9-8 and a 9-8 NFC South winner again. I think they could go 2-2, and that'd be enough.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's how we expected the year to go, to be like an 8-9 NFC South. I think the next 2 games them are tough. The Chargers, Cowboys, just because they've scraped past the Panthers and the Raiders. I know the Panthers are playing a lot better. And you can't really scrape past the Raiders 15 points. But it felt like that one watching it, where I feel like the Raiders could have won that game. But yeah, it was 2-2 might be enough. I think the next 2 games are massive. I think if you got a healthy lead going into the Panthers Saints, you should be fine. But yeah, they've just not. I expected them, with Evans coming back, I expected them to push on and like dominate these kind of teams and possibly do what they did last year in the NFC playoffs. But there's just 1 or 2 things where it's just not quite right. And they're still winning, but the last 3 are Giants, Panthers, Raiders, which is not a gauntlet of a stretch. And I think the Falcons' schedule does ease up, so they've got to keep winning, but they've just got to put up a full game together, because like you said, you can't go missing in 2 quarters and expect to keep winning in the NFL. And Baker doing silly mistakes.
Yeah, Mike Evans 1,000-yard watch. He's 4. He needs, obviously, he only had 69 yards in this one. He needs 410 to get to 1,000 yards. It feels like he's going to have 1 massive game against somebody. I don't think that's going to be the Chargers next week. It could be the Buccaneers play the Cowboys in Dallas, which is obviously where teams come and beat up on Dallas. So it could be that. He's got the Saints and Panthers. So it feels like maybe those are the 3 games to target. He's going to need to have kind of at least 1 massive or 2 massive games to be able to do it. And we hope he does it to continue the streak. This might be the worst. This next one. This was the worst game of the season by far. I got lured into this. I bet this. What a fucking idiot. Jaguars, Titans. Byron had over 39.5. It was over 40 by the time I bet it. 10-6 to the Jaguars. How I feel as much. What are the Titans doing? How the hell do you not win this game?
Well, I said the Titans -3.5 is my first pick as a favorite. I do not know. I think I went on the over as well. It was a GTC stamp of approval. Let's all go the over, and it was a terrible game. I think I may have mentioned, I think it was in the preview, and it's either going to be like a crazy scoring game or it's going to be like hardly anything, because that's how it feels like this AFC South goes. They never have a middling kind of game. But yeah, it's a bad loss for the Titans. I think it's just the whole. Like, Will Levis didn't play horrendous, but obviously when you get 6 points, it's not good. They got down to the 2-yard line. Was it twice? Like where they got stuffed, and it was just
the first time where they went. So on second, so it was inside the 2, second, third, and down. They didn't run Tony. Second, third, and fourth down. They didn't run Tony Pollard. What are you doing? He can get you. It was infuriating. And that's ultimately cost you the game. No points from those opportunities, and ultimately that's what's cost you. 10-6.
I think what's worse about them, I remember, because the Titans. to cover. Even that last down, if they got the touchdown, it wasn't going to help me. But it just didn't feel like any of the plays were destined to work. There wasn't one where it was like, oh, that was so close. I know there was like those two receivers in one point, but he threw the furthest back rather than nearest, who probably would have got a touchdown. But just like every throw just didn't feel like it wasn't a good scheme, a good play to be successful. It just felt like they were just, oh, let's do this one and see what happens. And it never felt like they were, well, they didn't score a touchdown. And I don't know, even if they play another quarter or two, they would have. And this against the Jags, I think that's the biggest thing. The Jags have been the worst defense this year. I think they've conceded the most. I think it's the passing touchdowns. It's in between them and the Titans. But like they're one of the worst defenses. And you're playing Mac Jones, who played horrendous as well. It's not like you're playing, what did Mac Jones go? He had 220 yards, but he had two terrible interceptions. Yeah, his QBR rating was 32. And yeah, just overall, this game was just a shambles, really, wasn't it? The Jags had one good drive, and they got the touchdown and the field goal twice in a row, and it was both teams eliminated. Not quite sure where both teams are going. It's
they've a lot of difficult decisions there. I think new coach for the Jaguars, Brian Callahan, might have done such a bad job that he also gets fired as just a one-year coach, and
GM might be going as well. I think he's had 2 years.
I don't know if they stick with Will, if they're going to be that high. They might take a go at a quarterback as well, and just say bye to Will Levis as well. The only bright spot in this game, you know what? Obviously, Tony Pollard having a decent game for the Titans, but Brian Thomas Jr. is having one hell of a rookie season in that mess. Is the Jacksonville Jaguars, up to 850 receiving yards, inside the top 15 for receiving yards on the season in the NFL. He's a great deep threat, and he's showing a little bit more to his game as well, I think, in recent weeks as well. He was just kind of big bombs downfield, but he's doing a little bit more now. And even managing to find production with Mac Jones as his quarterback.
Yeah, I'm curious with the Jags going forward. Obviously, they're not going to get a quarterback in the draft, and you want the highest. I still think they might be able to get the number one best player who's not QB, just with the teams who are got 2 wins at the minute, both need QB, so we'll see where that goes. But yeah, they don't want to keep winning to like put them out of a original talent, which they need to keep improving and be a good team. But
it feels like it just makes sense that's the home for Travis Hunter, who will hopefully win the Heisman. Although the way it's going, this Boise State running back's in the playoff, and if he goes off, it's going to absolutely screw me. But yeah, Travis Hunter, I think should go wherever the Jacksonville Jaguars pick. If it's not one, he should certainly be going in the top 3 because he's the best player.
Is it definitely going to be one of the things he's going to be there for 4 years? Does he get a big contract and leaves? Well, I feel like every Jags high pick does, like a Ramsey and stuff like that. Because that's what the Jags
could do. But I think ultimately he's going to try and continue to play this way that he's done in college, which is just be on the field for every snap and play both ways, which is it will be unreal. And you know what? He'd probably be the second best Jags receiver, and he'd be the number 1 Jags cornerback for sure.
Yeah.
And
then on the flip side, like I said, the Titans are just. I think when you look at a team like the Panthers, how the season's ended with a new coach and the QB looking really good. It's like you can be okay, we can build on something. We can see how we're going to improve next year. We can see where things are going. With this Titan teams, I think they had a good rookie draft. But just the whole operation just feels lost, and I'm not quite sure where they're going to go going forward, because you have to make big changes or they'll be here next year.
I think they're going to be here for a while, but yeah, both FC South teams dropped to 3 and 10. Let's get on to your 49ers, Joe. Not that this came out of nowhere. I just didn't. I thought the Bears would be more of a test, and I thought they performed better. Like they stopped playing, kind of maybe for they finally got rid of Matt Eberflus, and then they produced this, especially in the first half. Niners were just all over them. Kind of a huge offensive output from the Niners, led by George Kittle, who had a huge game. 6 for 151 and 2 touchdowns for Juwan Jennings. But has this inspired you? I hope that can the Niners go and run the table?
As an optimist, yes, but also this Bears team just did not show up whatsoever in that first half. I think
so bad.
The crazy stat was the 49ers stood 24 up at the break, and they'd outgained the Bears 319 yards to 4. So the game was basically over at halftime. It felt weird having a comfortable game watching the Niners because they don't do that. But no, they played well. Typical Niners. Guendo goes off, gets 2 touchdowns, goes over 120 yards, all-purpose yards, and then gets injured and having an MRI and might miss Thursday.
Yeah.
So God knows who's going to be. So it just feels like a typical, Niners. Something good happens and then more injuries. But yeah, I think Purdy played outstanding. Kittle was unbelievable. I think I had him in 2 touchdowns or a touchdown the bet, but he just went off. Like I said, Byron had the 200 plus yards receiving. I think at halftime he was at 135, and I thought Kittle was going to be the one who did it. But yeah, he had great games. Jennings looking like he has, and yeah, overall great performance. Keeps him in the race. Obviously, massive this Thursday. They have to win this. The only thing that they've got the Lions on the schedule. I think the other ones they can win, but I don't think they'll beat the Lions. So they're probably going to go 9-8, and I don't know if that's good enough.
Is that going to be enough? Because the Seahawks are already at 8, aren't they?
Yeah. So, but
it's not going to be enough for a wild card, is it? Like the Commanders.
Well, it depends what it depends what Commanders do, basically. Because I think the Commanders are at 8 wins as well, and they've got the Eagles next. So certainly make it interesting, but they have to beat the Rams this weekend. But Purdy looked great. Defense, yeah, I don't know what to take because his Bears offensive line was terrible. When you're giving up sacks to Gross Matos, who got 3 sacks and he had one all year, and I think was the big boy in the front. Malik Collins was like wrecking shop up the middle. I think this Bears offensive line has just been terrible, and it had probably a stinker. And the interim head coach something didn't work against the Niners. So yeah, great win, keeps the season alive, and yeah, the good thing. I know I'm rambling on. They did get Hufanga back, and Greenlaw might be back on Thursday as well. So they're starting to get these big pieces back on defense. It's the defense what worries them the most. They need Bosa back. He makes such a big difference. I think the offense is fine. It's just like they actually put away the red zone trips in the first half to make it a lot more comfortable. So yeah, all good for the 49ers this week.
Yeah, 6 and 7. Caleb, that's 56 sacks off Caleb Williams so far, which is that's a lot of sacks for your rookie quarterback to be taking, isn't it? And there's still 4 games to go, so going to get to 70 plus, I'd imagine. Bears 4 and 9. That's 7 in a row they've lost. Just no hope for the Bears, and it probably hurt them more than helped them. It hurt them the interim coach because they took the guy who's the offensive coordinator who'd been doing good work the last few weeks with Caleb and the offense, and they had him leading the team.
They're not officially out of it yet, which is crazy.
Well, I mean, I'll be the first to say the Chicago Bears are officially out of playoff.
Well, because in the NFC there's only 1 team eliminated, but in the AFC there's 6. Wider.
And they all said the AFC was a strong conference. Anyway, on to you Byron had the Bears +4, obviously didn't cover, lost by 25. He was on the Jets, Dolphins under, which also didn't hit. We've talked about you were on the Titans as your favorite. Joe didn't hit. You were on under for Seahawks Cardinals, which was my favorite bet of the week, which didn't hit. Seahawks won this 30-18, and they were just points out the blocks, weren't they? It was 17-7 at the end of the first quarter. I think you knew early on that you had no real chance of the under. Zach Charbonnet, I think, which was surprisingly no Kenneth Walker. How did we miss Zach Charbonnet for Fantasy Game Day?
I'm not sure, but he had a huge game and it was massive for them. And there's calls on to get him more of the ball and try and split between Kenneth Walker because Kenneth Walker's not been at his best
whenever
this
he
year.
Gets the chance to feature, he always produces that Charbonnet. Yeah, I thought he was an unbelievable game. 134 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, another 59 yards in the air. He had 29 touches. Yeah, he was just he was unplayable. JSN had another decent game, 5 for 82 and a touchdown. He's really come on leaps and bounds in kind of the middle third, and then heading into the final third of the season. I thought he was really impressive again. And I don't think the Seahawks looked in trouble at all at any point of this one, really.
No, it was a weird game. Obviously, they played 2 weeks ago, and it was a really low-scoring game. So when we all
suck it in, didn't we?
Yeah, suck it into that. Obviously, points. Because the defenses for both teams were been the strengths the last few weeks, but obviously it doesn't work out every week. It was fairly comfortable for the Seahawks. Just did what they want. Kyler's last few games has not been playing great. It feels like he's getting scrambled a lot. He had two. Did he
His
have two interceptions?
interceptions, yeah, he had two
Yeah,
interceptions. They were both
killers.
horrible
Yeah,
throws.
yeah.
Yeah,
And you just can't do that against a team like Seattle. I think Seattle's rounded into a good team. I think Seattle's done what teams want to do, not want to do, obviously. You don't want to start off poor. But they've started off poor, had a few average again, but the last few, not the greatest week last week, but still managed to win. And they're just turning in these performances where I think they won 4 on the bounce. And they're just looking, they're probably the strongest team in the NFC West, just an overall. Gino's just played, he's just not losing them the games at the minute as well. He's just doing what he needs to do. No mistakes, just getting the points on the board, and let this defense, which was why they brought Mike McDonald in, was this defense, and they're looking better and better each week, which is scary proposition for the rest of the NFC. To be honest, because I think again they're another team you like. You're not be scared of them if you're one of the top teams, but they can certainly produce an upset, and they've got the players to do that. So, and I think they just showed that they're a better squad than the Cardinals, beating them twice in 3 weeks. And I think the Cardinals season, that's more done now. Just because, losing last week was tough, where they should have won that game. But lose to the Seahawks twice, you're 2 games behind, plus you've lost twice them. Technically 3 games behind with 4 to play. The only good grace is the Cardinals have got a very easy schedule coming up. They've got Patriots, Panthers, the next 2 games, and then ending Rams and 49ers, while the Seahawks have got Packers, Vikings. So, if form goes and the Seahawks lose the last 2 games next 2 games against the Packers, Vikings, then this again, they say NFC West is all up, and they all could be on 8 wins. It could be some 8 and 7 going into the last 2 weeks where everyone's playing each other. So it could make it really interesting.
That's the situation we all want. I think that would be great, and that would make obviously just again more meaningful games and just chaos. That would be the situation we'd want for sure. Seahawks 30, Cardinals 80. Seahawks 5-1 on the road, 5-1 on the road, 3-4 at home.
And the next 2 games at home. Against the Packers and Vikings.
Not great at home. We'd always associate Seattle having a real big home advantage as well, home field advantage with the crowd and atmosphere they create. But not so much. Turn into some road warriors. This next game, this was on the second screen. I was watching on Sunday. What an absolutely turgid game this was, and yet somehow wasn't the worst game on the slate.
You guys doubted me. What
we did,
the Giants. You laughed at me. You laughed at me picking the Giants +5.
We did, yeah.
And I'm not gonna lie, I celebrated when they missed that field goal because I thought what was going to happen is they're going to kick that field goal and then the Saints go up and score a touchdown to so I'd lose the cover. But both 2 terrible teams. I knew it was going to be a low scoring. Don't know why I didn't go under in this game.
It was crazy. It was a blind miss from us. But Saints win 14-11. Saints go to 5-8. Giants are 2-11. It was putrid. It was awful. This is the Saints. We had Alvin Kamara as our fantasy game day captain, and he had a stinker. One of the only few times he's put up a stinker this season. And Derek Carr's done for the year. I think he's broke his hand up. He's got a severe fracture in his non-throwing hand, and he's going to be done for the season. So we saw Jake Haener. I think it'll be Jake Haener. The rest of the way, I don't think they'll go back to Spencer Rattler, do you?
Oh, who knows with this Saints team, to be honest. It was I started watching this game and I turned it off, not because it was a struggle to watch. They've got the rest of the schedule. They've got 3 tough games, so they're technically still in the only 2 games back. But I think once they get eliminated fully, I think they might get Rattler back in just to see what they've got with him.
They've got the Commanders this week, so it's.
So and that card, it was they didn't need to make that play as well. It's just, that might be card. That might be card done in the in a Saints uniform, or they should be anyway.
I'd have thought so. I don't have to talk much more about this game. Giants host the Ravens next week, and they are 14.5-point underdogs, and I can only see that number getting bigger throughout the week.
The only good thing about the Giants, they lost again, so you're still atop of this draft board for next year. That's why I picked them, because I thought they were going to win this to do a typical Giants thing,
Screw themselves.
to screw themselves basically. But they managed. They're a team which manages to lose on the worst ways possible. Because they had this, they had the fumble when they played in Germany. They've had a few others where they've managed to lose games they shouldn't lose. And curious where they're going to go with the head coach because of these losses. I think they were going to keep him, but when they keep losing these kind of games, it's
I don't think you can. I think he's just he's made it. I think his position's untenable now. But a quick shout out to the Saint City and me guys, as we've had on the show before. Mike and Dan, they were in the house at MetLife on Sunday and looked like they had a great time despite the poor game. So they were there to see their.
I'm sure they drank plenty of beer to get through that game.
Yeah, I'd seen some of the stories to post. They look like they were having a good time in New York. So yeah, guys, I'm sure you did. Well, I hope you had a fantastic time. Moving on then, Steelers Brown. Oh, where are we? No, I've lost my train of thought. So yes, you had the Giants to cover, even though they lost by 3. So you were 2-2. I was on the Chargers Chiefs under, which was comfortably under 43. I had the Seahawks as 2.5 point favorites. Underdogs. Even first time I've got a read right on the Seahawks all year. I was so confident in that the Seahawks were going to win and win easy. And then I was on the Bills -4.5. As favourites. I'm waiting on the over for Bengals Cowboys to see if I can go 3-1. I think I'm safe. I'm 7 clear of Byron with how many weeks? 4 to go. 7 clear of Byron with 16 picks to go. I think I'm safe, Joe, from the fast food forfeit.
It would be if you managed to come last, it would be the biggest bottle job in podcast history.
It would. But I'm quite good. 32, 20, and 3 though on the fourfold. It's pretty good going.
Compared to last year, you've certainly made an improvement. You've changed some tactics, and must be the draft process has helped you streamline.
Yeah.
Taking away picks you would have made last year, we've taken them away for you.
Possibly, yeah, that could be it. To be fair, I want to see if I can be. What was your winning record last year? That's got to be the challenge to be. You won, didn't you? Yeah, easy, I think.
No, Byron won the fourfold.
Did Byron win the fourfold? Oh yeah, 45, 23, and 4. So. In the regular season. So what do I need? I need 4. Oh no, I'm not going to get there on me. Yeah, 14 more wins. How good was Byron at the fourfold last year? But yeah, 14 more wins. I've already got more wins at this point in the fourfold than I did last year, though. So that's good. With 4 weeks to go. So that's nice. But so our guest, thanks to Simon for the UK Steelers pod again, to be our guest. He was on the Steelers as his favourite, unsurprisingly, and they won quite comfortably, won by 13. I think the Steelers. I think Joe G had that touchdown, didn't he, in the first quarter? But apart from that, it was all Steelers on the ground, through the air. Yeah, just laid it on him. And probably the funniest bit was Kadarius Toney coming in and fumbling that, muffing that punt as well.
Doing what he does best.
Yeah, nothing too much to say on this really. Steelers 10-3. Just controlled, not really making mistakes, not beating themselves. They're 10-3. The 2 games behind the Steelers. The 2 clear of the Ravens now, though. Feels like they're almost there. Feels like the knockout blow's coming for the Ravens, I think. In week 16.
Definitely. Yeah.
Steelers can clinch the division. Yeah.
Yes. The defense showed up this time. I think that helps them. Obviously, getting the 3 pass rushers on the field was massive. TJ Watt showed up at the certainly the start of the game, showing out Myles Garrett, what's what. So great win for the Steelers. Like, it was a weird game. Like, Russell Wilson only threw 458 yards, but he still seemed like he had a good game. But just not many yards as I expected. Just doing what he needs to do. Still 2 touchdowns. The running game going over 100 yards. So a good overall victory. And defense stepping up to doing what they need to do. And some of the favourites to win the AFC North.
Well, it's not easy for this. So the Steelers are on the road to Philadelphia next week. So they've got the Eagles on the road, whereas the Ravens have got the Giants. So all of a sudden, if the Eagles beat the Steelers, Ravens, as you expect, would beat the Giants. All of a sudden, that's the Ravens, I suppose, opportunity to get level, split the series. So I think that obviously is weeks. Steelers got a chance to put the nail in the coffin in week 16, regardless of what happens against the Eagles. Ravens got a chance to kind of obviously take it to the last 2 games. So it'd be really interesting. It's such a big advantage for that. So either one of those teams to have a home playoff game is such a big advantage because likely the way it's setting up, they'll play each other. It'll just be where it's played.
No, yeah, definitely. Like you said, the Steelers end in with Chiefs and Bengals as well. So it's not even, even if they beat the Ravens, they could lose 3 of them games. And well, they'll still be above them, won't they? Because they'll be 3 ahead with the tie. So yeah, massive game that one. And
so many big games coming up. Great to see. So and the only other game to mention on Simon's fourfold, so he went up. So he's 1-2 pending Monday Night Football. Is Falcons Vikings. He was on the under for that. It was again another bet that I loved. I was on it, but the Vikings just pulled away in the second. Especially in the second half. But it was there was enough points on the board in the first half from an over/under perspective to get to the over. But Vikings just pulled away. Second half, put the foot down. Jordan Addison, huge game. Justin Jefferson, huge game. And the Falcons secondary is a mess.
Yeah. Not good. It was such a tight game. It was, 21 all going into the fourth quarter? And the Falcons have played well, especially running the ball. Tyler Algier going 7 yards average. And it's, Kirk, Mooney got over 142 yards. Ray McLeod nearly got 100 yards. So they played well. And then, like you said, they just had a disaster of a fourth quarter where you just can't do. Kirk through another pair of interceptions, didn't throw a touchdown again, another week. Where it's just making these mistakes. And on the opposite end, just Darnold just having the perfect game, to be honest. 22 for 28, 347, 347 yards, 5 TDs. I think it's the first time they've had 5 TDs quarterback for over a decade. Just a perfect performance. And the Sam Darnold performance, like, he's been playing well. He's been having a few games where he's played average. But today, it was incredible. Top 10 quarterback. And what else can you do when, even like under pressure, which was his concern coming into this year. Some great players like the 1-2 Jefferson, where I know Jefferson was open, but he escaped the pressure and just flinged it downfield for Jefferson there. So all things looking good for this Vikings team, but the opposite for the Falcons, where they just can't win these games where it's close and where the game was there for them to win it, but they just interception, downs, that fumble was massive from the kickoff.
It's 4 in a row they've lost now, and they're just find terrible ways to beat themselves. The secondary for the deep Addison touchdown, the deep Jefferson touchdown, it was like they were like henchmen out of a cartoon or something. The way they were just flailing about the Falcons secondary, it were embarrassing just to get so lost. They're a mess. And it's weird because we've been saying, one of the things they really needed was a pass rush. They've got 9 sacks in the last 2 games after having 10 in the previous 12 weeks. And then the offense has fallen apart.
That's what bad teams do.
Turnovers. Because how many times is Kirk going to throw late into coverage? Insane to make those decisions. The Penix chat. At this point, you've handed the initiative over to the Bucs. What are you going to lose by going with Penix now?
I'm guessing the only issue is when you look at the schedule. So they have the last. Well, I know those are the same as bad, but they play Broncos, Chargers, Vikings, who are all playoff teams. And you're going into a schedule where you got Raiders, Giants next 2 weeks. So gambling that Penix is any better, like you could put him in, he could look like a rookie, and then you've lost the Raiders. While I think Kirk at least gives you a better floor. Mm-hmm. So I wonder if that's where the risk is, playing these bad 2 teams that Kirk could get back on it. Start playing like he did before Halloween. So that's where the big gamble is, that are you willing to throw another game away by putting a rookie in?
It's fair. I just think they're just playing so badly at the minute.
And I don't think it's just Kirk. I don't think it's just Kirk as well, because I think he had like a good game, except the interceptions, and that's why it feels like he's playing the last few weeks, where he's just doing stupid things at the wrong time. But there's been also, I can't remember who said it now, but they were saying that they watched a video on the Falcons, and there's sometimes where there's players with their hands up in the end zone saying like, throw it to me, and then he does, and they don't jump up for it, or they don't go for it. And there's a few mistakes like that where they're not helping Kirk as well. But I'm not saying Kirk's got no fault. So I think it's just, another bad loss. But only one game back, and with the Bucks schedule, if the Bucks lose one and they get one back, then they've got the tie break. So that's why I would just stick with Kirk. I think they just played some tough defenses in Broncos, Chargers, Vikings, and then you're going against the Raiders, Giants. So I think you should stick with Kirk.
It's too early to
got the
say the
higher
finish.
floor.
It is too early to say the finish because they've got a tiebreaker. But it's been, Kirk's thrown 8 interceptions since he last threw a touchdown. It's bad. It is really bad, and I don't know if he's just gone. It just feels a real struggle.
Yeah, he still threw for 344 yards. You know what I mean? He still threw.
But that was the nature of the game, and
yeah.
I know Mooney had a massive game, didn't he? 6-1-42. Ray McLeod out of nowhere had 98 yards. Like all of a sudden, he was a big part. But yeah, Kyle Pitts pretty anonymous again. Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like all the momentum they had earlier in the season is just gone. It's just crumbled, and I think it's going to be real difficult for them to pick up the pieces. And then the last game for us to talk about will be on our ATS Picks segment. We managed to cover 12 games there, which is pretty good. But pretty middling week for us. Byron had the winning week, 6-5. Well, it's not done yet, but he's 6-5-1 heading into Monday Night Football. So he's got he's going to get 2 games up on you, Joe. You're 4-7-1. I'm 5-6-1, and we're all on the Bengals minus 5.5. I didn't update the total. Sorry, Joe. I've just noticed. So that'll put you on 113 wins. Byron on 106. That's right, isn't it? Yes, we're 7 behind now, and I'm on 95, getting close to breaking 100. But yeah, I suppose just the only game we haven't talked about is the Eagles. Eagles, Panthers. Eagles made a meal of this, to say the least, didn't they? It was 22-16, and the Panthers had the ball to win the game ultimately. We know the Panthers has been playing a lot better recently. Do you think, how much was this one that it was just the Panthers playing well and Eagles having a bit of an off day, or was it the Eagles looking ahead to kind of what's to come for them?
I've got to give it to the Panthers just because how they've played the last few weeks. I think if this was like a one-off, then I would be, it was just like that kind of like if they've been absolutely trounced last few games. But, they've held their against the Chiefs, who are the number 1 seed in the AFC. The Eagles, which, arguably you could like play a coin toss who's having the, who's going to get the number 1 seed between them and the Lions. So the fact that they've come close where they could have won, both games. Leggett had that ball. It was a perfect throw. Bryce Young he's been outstanding the last few weeks, and I think it's changed the Panthers season around. Because when he got benched, you were like, "Where's this Panthers team going? Are they going to have to draft another rookie next year?" But since he's come back, he's been awesome. They just can't, get over the finish line, and it might help him out getting a better draft pick. We would like some of these like moral victories to be victories. But when you look at the whole squad itself, it's not a great squad. So the fact that they're keeping up with these teams, I think that's give it up for the head coach and the quarterback. And the Eagles just a weird team where they can run all over a team that went for 209 yards, but they only threw for 108 yards.
Yeah, we had Hurts in fantasy game day, so we should have known he was, they were going to struggle in terms of moving the ball through the air. AJ Brown, also, that was your pick, Joe. AJ Brown 4 for 43. And it was a real struggle, and they did play very well, the Panthers. I expect the Eagles to bounce back in terms of having a more efficient and better offensive production games moving forward. They do play the Steelers next, obviously, which is tough, but they're 11-2. They're hoping for a favour from the Bills this week to try and get close to the Lions and the 1 game back. But just a note on the Panthers, rookie running back Jonathan Brooks, who had come into the year off the back of an ACL injury, has another one confirmed torn ACL, so that's going to wrap up his rookie season after just 9 carries, which is a shame in the nature of that as a running back. It feels rough, 2 ACLs in the space of 12 months. That feels real tough for Jonathan Brooks.
Yeah, it's you were hoping for a great story coming into this year, like where he got drafted and everything, and it's a big shame, but not much you can say about that. But the Panthers looking hopeful. The Eagles, I think there's just some doubt now, just because that's 2 games in a row against the Ravens. They only went for 118, and I know you're playing the Ravens, but they're a team who was letting most teams go in 300 or 400 yards on their
Yeah.
cornerback. So I think that's easily fixed. But when they're playing some big teams like the Lions, and they can't just keep running it if they get down early. Because this Panthers team could have won this game. That Leggett, it looked like he caught it, and I thought, what a catch! And he rolls into the end zone. And you think, when the ref didn't give you, surely he caught that, but he obviously hit the ground. But that was massive, and the Eagles could have gone back and won it on a field goal.
I think that it like sparked into life, wouldn't they? I think it just felt like it was just a sleepwalk game for the Eagles. Yeah, I'm not too worried. They do have the Steelers next though, and
that's what I was just about to say.
Game.
Yeah. I think that's
yes. Who's a 5-point underdog?
Oh, is it the Steelers? I think that's a huge game to show again who they are and where they are compared to the Lions. I think both teams have got big games coming up. I think if they shit the bed again on the passing, and the Steelers manage to hold them down, and we'll see how they get on. Because I think Steelers are a lot better, a good defense. Then we'll see where they go. But then they end up with the Commanders, Cowboys, Giants, all NFC East games going forward. So yeah, I think it's a big game, and see where they go from there. But
I think Sirianni needs to shave his head again. That sort of sparked them into life earlier in the season. So I think he just needs to redo the head shave, I think.
Yeah, definitely.
And that might help. That's all 13 games covered. So we'll have a quick check-in on the winning fantasy game day lineup. I don't think you've seen this yet, Joe, because I didn't share it in the group, did I? Because I did the pack. So yeah, shout out to Stu Backer, which is I think how that's supposed to be pronounced. The winner, a mammoth, for 247.98 points in the OG £7.50 Sunday Stars fantasy game day, the UK's best and fastest growing NFL daily fantasy platform. Make sure you join now using promo code COVER. You'll get a free entry after your first play. Got to be 18 years or over in the UK, and of course, please gamble responsibly. Joe, just to put some context into this, the winning lineup here had more in their captain and quarterback than we did in our entire team.
The curse continues,
we really do we really need to just figure out a different strategy, because we finished 213th out of 230 odd people. But the winner had Puka Nacua as captain for 83 points. So yeah, the 162 yard, one receiving, one rushing touchdown game was massive. Tagged with Josh Allen, so feel sorry for you if you played against Josh Allen in your fantasy playoffs this week. If you're a contender and you got smashed by Josh Allen, congrats if you did have Josh Allen. He had 51.88 points from your quarterback, 6 touchdowns. Braylon Allen, who was, I think, a popular differential pick, we went with him when we saw Breece Hall was out. Maybe it should have been Isaac Guerrero, Joe. That's the one we should have gone for as a cheap running back. But yeah, Braylon Allen for 12.1. Charbonnet, who had the big 38-point game. Like I say, 200 yards, 180, 190 yards, and 2 rushing touchdowns. Amari Cooper, the solid game. Justin Jefferson, it was just hit after hit after hit, really, wasn't it? Jefferson with 32 points, and then Alvin Kamara and Dawson Knox, who didn't contribute too much. But yeah, just hit on Jefferson, Charbonnet, Puka Nacua, and Josh Allen.
Yeah, so he needs to do in this game. 4 players hit big. Yeah, no, but that's what I mean.
Pick the right players, Joe.
Yeah, if you hit big on 4 players, then you're in a chance. It's yeah, we didn't have the greatest.
I've seen a score like that for a while. I don't know if that's the biggest winning score for the £7.50 Sunday Stars game, but that seemed a huge score. It was 160 that won it last week, so massive score. I think won by about 25 points. I think so. It was a comfortable bit of a gap between first and second place. So yeah, shout out Stu Backer, and what a great username as well for that. So yes, 18 points. So it was still a comfortable win. Right, Thursday night football, Joe. It's your Niners. Niners host the Rams yet? Yeah, Niners host the Rams. Niners are 2.5-point favorites. Over under is 48.5. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's an exciting game. Making Thursday nights, exciting. What you don't want is these terrible Thursday night games at the end of the season where nothing matters. This is the complete opposite. Everything matters. I think both teams. I don't think the Rams need this win. The 49ers do. If they lose this, then they're out of it. And yeah, it should be an exciting game. The 49ers offense looking a lot better. We'll see what it's like against, I think, a better organized team and defense. I know the Rams just conceded 42 points, but that was against the Buffalo Bills. I'm not sure if the 49ers could do the same. See what happens with the running back. Obviously, I mentioned Guerrero is probably out. It looked like he was a sprained ankle, getting an MRI on Monday. Can't see him a short turnaround on Thursday, so they're going to go in with Patrick Taylor and probably some other unknown running back. So they see if they can continue. And yeah, it should be a fun game. Like, I'm really excited for it. The 49ers normally own the Rams especially in the regular season. I know they lost early in the year, but they should have won that game because they were up by 10 going into the fourth quarter. They're the games which, when I look back at the season, that and the Cardinals and the Seahawks being up by 10 or so points and losing it at the end at a big game. So yeah, it's just a huge game. I think Kittle's going to have another big game. And it's really, what can this defense stop that Rams offense?
Yeah,
I think that's huge. The Rams do normally put some yards on the 49ers, but they managed to just like keep them out of the end zone. They've got some players, but like I mentioned, Hufanga, Tre'Davious Ward's been back the last 2 weeks. Obviously, having your number one cornerback is huge. Greenlaw's supposed to be coming back. We'll see if he is the Greenlaw of old. He's just coming back. His first game from Super Bowl Achilles injuries, I believe it was. So we see how he plays. I'm not quite sure what Bosa's status is. I don't know if you've seen anything.
No, I've not seen anything. I mean, you'd hope it's just the short weeks. Obviously, the short week being an issue, isn't it? You know.
And we'll see if Trent's back as well, because obviously he missed another week, which I think is injury and obviously personal. Off the field. So yeah, so I think it's a huge game. Purdy played a lot better, so yeah, exciting. And like I said, it's a must win for the Niners. And if they win this, then you never know. I think the NFC West is certainly up for grabs if that happens.
Yeah, I think I'm leaning to the over. Last 4 meetings between the two have hit the over, but 3 of those meetings were in LA. Yeah, I think I'm leaning the over. I don't know. When two teams have like big offensive production like the Niners and Rams do, it's hard to do it 2 weeks in a row, isn't it? Like that. I don't know. We'll see, but I'm leaning the over so far. That's us done. Thanks very much for joining us for our Week 14 episode of Good Team Review episode of Good Teams Win Great Teams Cover. As always, go give us a follow on Spotify and you'll be notified when new episodes drop. YouTube, Twitter /X, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky at GTW_GTC, and we'll be back with our preview episode for Week 15, and that'll drop on Friday morning.